So, what's new, people? Well, microchip technology. That's an old dad joke from the 90s. It's not so new anymore. But apart from that, CAMCHAIN tensioner, KTX. So, there's your actual spring operated, hydraulically assisted CAMCHAIN tensioner. There's like a ratchet and pull inside there, which as the chain wears, this will move out a little bit and then it will click over on one extra tooth to lock it out a bit further, and then it will click over on another tooth to lock it out a bit further, and then it will click over on till it runs out of clicks. Now it's also driven by oil pressure in through the back there. The idea being that even though it's come out one click, it's still not quite enough to hold the chain where it needs to, so it has the oil as the backup just to give it a bit more, and the backlash, so to speak, between teeth is that movement there. That movement there is taken up by the oil pressure. Well, apparently there's a design fault with these where when the tensioner gets old, the oil pressure won't keep the tensioner locked out where it should be. Now, the tensioner, you push down on a bad boy to reset it, and it has to go down to precisely 3 millimeters sticking out, which obviously I'm not doing here because I don't care, I'm just showing you lot. And then you bung it in the hole and you push on it real hard like that, and ping! That's how it sets itself. So when you push it right down hard on itself, you release the ratchet pull, it then shoots out to take up the slack. Well, that's the end of that bad boy. So when they're knackered, the other thing you can do is go and see your friendly machine shop, unless you've got a lathe or a drill and a grinder. Grind up a bolt with a 10 by 1 millimeter thread on it. Just happens to fit in the back of the original plug. Screw it in along with all your seals and washers, etc., which I've omitted for this because I haven't finished yet. Ooh. You also want to keep your handlebars twisted to one side, which is not the side you're working on. Now this is all going pear-shaped. I have no idea why that bolt started, but it has. Great. Hold on, gentlemen. We have an unrehearsed problem. So oh, you mother of all Winfreds. Right. So just with the rocker cover off, there's a small dot mark there on the cam pulley and a dot mark there on the top of the cam holder. Find the screw back. Right, look, there's your tensioner blade, and I'm almost replicating your horrible knack 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 on idle. So right, so basically as I screw that in, I'm locking my cam chain up. Now you don't want the thing like a guitar string, neither do you want it too slack. So it's going to be a case of start the bad boy up and let him idle just to get it to the sweet spot. And then what you need to do then is rub your O-ring off of there, slip a flat washer on. If you've got access to nylock nuts, put a nylock nut on there and it won't come loose. I don't have access to 10x1 nuts, so my engineers made me one, and I'm just going to screw it down there. Maybe put a bit of Loctite on it. Not going to be used that often. And the only other thing I got to do is file a couple of flats on there so I can get a spanner on it. Because I think all he's done is just put a CAMCHAIN hole in the end. So that takes care of that. But there is something else that you've got to do before you do all this. And that something else is, inside there is a oil feed hole. That's oil pressure from the oil pump. That's what pushes your pole and ratchet out. You need to close that off. Alright, this is just a 6mm screw that I've turned down in an electric drill. This is just the prototype. So basically it fits up in that hole there. It is precisely 5mm, because I've had the engineer turn one up now. He's put a 4mm hole at the middle of it, which you can insert a 4mm screw, would you believe? That's for the purposes of pulling the bad boy back out. So with this one, I'll just use it as the prototype to set the depth. Self-tapping screw in the end to get it back out. It's basically 21mm long. I've put a 45-degree chamfer on the end of it because it kind of goes in there at 45 degrees. So I'm going to copy a 45-degree chamfer on there and then just cut this down until it's just flush inside. And the only thing I'm not really happy about is that O-ring. Although it sits in a recess, it's not really locked in place anymore, but it's only an O-ring, so once we've got our oil shut off, we should be pretty much okay. So I need to give this lot a good clean before reassembling. And I'm not cutting my fingers smart in some. Assemble it all up, get some adjustment on the cam chain, and that should stop the horrible cam chain noise. The little jobs. I modified a rear sprocket from CRF 250 because I didn't want to spend 100 and something pounds on a sprocket when I could just pay £14 for one. Got myself a nice, not pretty, but a nice X-ring chain for 20 quid. Can't argue with that. And I'm waiting for a front sprocket to turn up. One from Bangkok, and before I realised there was one in Bangkok, I've also bought one in the UK. So I got a 13 and a 14 on its way. The only thing we're struggling to get now is a graphics set. Oh God, I've been on AliExpress. What a ball ache it is trying to use that. Oh, absolute stupidity. Anyway, that's pretty much it really. Oh, apart from I stole the pads out of this bike because someone's put Nissin calipers on it, and it should be Brembo. There's Brembo on the front, he's a Nissin on the back, but they haven't done the carrier properly. It was like at a funny angle. So I've just sent that down to the engineers now to get that machined square. And I've been and bought some more brake pads for the CRF, even though I didn't get to ride it, so I'll switch all the brake pads back round. And that's it. Oh, and the front wheel, yeah, Forget all about the front wheel. That's in Chiang Mai being rebuilt with a Japanese rim. So as soon as the front wheel comes up, I'm off out to send it. Cheerio now.